Alright guys, so today as you can see we got another pulling truck in the shop here. I had a friend call me up a year or so ago and ask if I'd be interested in buying this thing to do something with it. That he was just burnt out on it and it had sat since he broke it in 2016 when we were sled pulling down at Terre Haute, Indiana. But then about a month ago he called me again and said, hey, I really want to move that truck. It's been sitting for almost 5 years now. I want to do something with it. So we got to talking about it, and it worked out to where we went and got it this weekend. So I'll give you a little walk around of it. It's a mid-90s Dodge. It's got a 5.9 12 valve Cummins in it. Right now it's got a 3-inch smoothbore turbo on it. But when he broke the rear end in it, he had just put this turbo on, so it's only got about half a pass on it. Got about a good 1/2 inch of dust on it from just setting in this pull barn. They actually brought it home after they broke the Dana 80 rear end, which was very common when we were still trying to run stock driveline, and they put this 20-145 in it, and they had it essentially welded and bolted in pretty well. I just needed to finish hooking some stuff up and put the bed back on, and it could have went pulling again, but they got burned out on it, and everybody gets busy, you know, so it just sat, and so we made the deal, and here it is. We want to try to hear it run one more time before we decide to tear it apart or do whatever we're going to do with it. So that's what this video is going to be. You're going to see us try to make this old girl run. These 12 valve Cumminses are like the small block Chevy of the diesel world. They're pretty darn tough. There's a lot of modifications that don't cost a whole lot for them, and they were just very dependable engines, and they made a blue million of them. So, well, it's got a good positive click to it anyhow, so hopefully the engine's not stuck on this thing. I just threw a battery charger on the battery. Seems that all our batteries have set around and they're all on the weak side. Story of my life. So the next thing we need to do is see if we can get the fuel cell hooked up. It's laying there on the floor. It's got an Aeromotive A1000 fuel pump right underneath there. Two things that diesels need to run are air and fuel. They don't need spark, which that eliminates one thing that's usually a battle when something's sat. So we got to make her crank fast enough, and we got to get fuel and air to it. So we're going to work on hooking this fuel cell up, see what we can make happen. The thing still just clicks when I hit the start button. I was thinking it was a low battery. Upon more investigation, I put a 15mm socket on the front of this balancer right here, because that's what the bolts are, and the engine is stuck. That's not a good thing. Evidently has moisture in it from setting, and that pull barn must have the cylinders must be froze up a little bit. So that adds a little bit more of a challenge to the project, but we're not giving up just yet. Check the oil in it. It's a critical thing to have in an engine generally. It's a little low, but the oil don't look that bad. Then I checked the antifreeze, because if it would have blown a head gasket, it would have mixed antifreeze and oil, and it would have been low on something essentially. The antifreeze looks excellent, so there's not any bad signs there. The one thing I did notice is the thing's sweating horsepower, aka leaking oil, and it's never even tried turning over or ran yet. So that's an interesting deal. So I don't know. We're going to work on it here a little bit and see what we can make happen. So after thinking about what could possibly be locked up on this truck, I remember the fella I bought it from saying that he put a new triple disc clutch in this thing and it hadn't ran since. So it makes me skeptical that there's something going on with the clutch set up in this truck. So I think we're going to pull the transmission out of it and see if we find anything on that end before we start tearing into the engine. Okay, I gotta get that drive shaft out of there. So I got all the bolts out of the 241 transfer case. Big thing is you gotta make sure those are unbolted, because if you forget one nut on them, they still don't come out. So first step is you can take the transfer case out, and then you jack the transmission up, take the cross member out, and then the transmission can come out. Thankfully, this truck never had the drive shafts finished installed in it. After he broke it, put the big rear end in, he just never finished putting it back together. So that eliminated one step. Normally you'd have to take the drive shafts out. So now I'm going to lift this 241 out of here. This thing is much lighter than my 271 I run in my pulling truck, and now in our class it's a common thing to have a drop box and reverser, which are much lighter but much stronger transmission and transfer cases. Oh yeah, I like lifting those. Tell you guys, I've been around a lot of ingenuity and seen a lot of things done on pulling trucks and equipment over time, and just all sorts of things, but this hand throttle really impresses me. Usually when guys put a hand throttle in, they run a cable up to the injection pump, but this is very ingenuitive. First of all, we got this bungee strap right here going to the firewall of the truck that holds it back. Which he told me a story about going pulling and getting to one of the big pulls. Actually, that pull at Terre Haute, he didn't have a return, so he put that bungee strap on and that satisfied him. But that hand throttle just runs down to the stock foot pedal, which essentially goes up to the injection pump and controls the throttle. And that is very impressive to me. I'd never thought of that. It's definitely interesting. Apparently it works.